Hello there! And welcome back to another video! This week I'm going to be doing episode 7 of My Fandoms Series. My Fandoms Series is something I started almost a year ago. It'll have been a year ago, like in 2 months, maybe 1 month. And it's a series where I draw fan art for shows that have been like shows like novels, series, any kind of like creative media that I can consume that has been like very impactful to me in one way or another. And I wanted to do a series like My Fandoms just to be able to indulge and share things that have been huge inspirations to me across time. So episode 1, My Fandoms, was Dragon Ball Z, episode 2 was Naruto, episode 3 was Harry Potter, episode 4 was Star Wars, episode 5 was Avatar The Last Airbender, episode 6 was Teen Wolf, and now we're at episode 7, and the subject of this week's episode is Miraculous Ladybug. And I'll be honest, like, this has been the largest gap between episodes. I'm fairly sure the Teen Wolf episode went up, like, I think maybe even 5 months ago. And that's because I was very much procrastinating making this video, because I knew that for Miraculous, I wanted to feature the love square. If you've never seen Miraculous, the story is basically, we've got these two characters, Adrien and Marinette, and they're both superheroes. So Adrien is Chat Noir and Marinette is Ladybug. And Marinette is in love with Adrien, who is Chat Noir, is in love with Ladybug. And so Ladybug doesn't give Chat Noir a chance, like a dating chance sort of thing, because she's in love with Adrien, who's actually Chat Noir. So it's basically this thing that in the fandom we call the love square, where it's just two people, but there's 4 different types of pairings. And I wanted to feature the love square, meaning all 4 incarnations of the pairing, because it's like the highlight of the show. Like, this is a kids show it's made by like a French writer, a Korean animation studio, and I don't know what, but it's a very kind of weird show that shouldn't work, but it does. And I'm definitely not the demographic, but the majority of the fandom is my demographic, which is like late teen, early 20s female audience, because it's completely like taken over Tumblr and like that side of fandom stuff. And it's just because the characters are so cute and this dynamic, like the whole like secret identity love square thing is just there's just so much to love about this show, and I really enjoy it. I started watching it, this is like one of the latest out of My Fandom series so far. I started watching it in 2016, and that was only when 1 season was out. And it's just, I'd seen the fan art for it on Tumblr and stuff like that, but I hadn't really seen any of the episodes. I figured it was Korean, so I was kind of surprised to find out that it was French. And I've never been more thankful to the fact that I can sort of understand and sort of like speak a little bit of French, so I get to watch the episodes like however I first find them. I get to watch them and understand them, which is I'm very happy about. And yeah, when I first watched it, all of season 1 was out, but season 2 hadn't even been announced yet. And so by the time season 2 came around, I started being able to watch the episodes as they came up. Like, people on Instagram and people on Tumblr would like find the episode, and there would be like the spoiler tags, and all the like the supporting cast got far more developed, and I don't know, it was just like a huge sort of thing. And it's something that like I forget about on my day-to-day life, but then I go on to Tumblr or on DeviantArt, and I was like, I'm not necessarily DeviantArt anymore, Tumblr or Instagram, and I'm like, yes. It's like a scavenger hunt for so who can find and re-upload the next episode as fast as possible, because they don't upload on a set schedule, which I find is very interesting. So you never really know when the episode's going to come out. It can be like 2 in a single week, or it can be like 3 months apart and you're still within the same season. But the sense of constructive community within the Miraculous fandom is something that I haven't seen as much in other fandoms, which I really enjoy. So for the illustration, we've got 4 quadrants. First, top left is Chat, so Marinette and Chat Noir. Top right is Lady Noir, so Ladybug and Chat Noir. Bottom left is Ladrien, which is Ladybug and Adrien. And then bottom right is Adrianette, which is Marinette and Adrien. And yeah, it's just the whole, each pairing has its own sort of like dynamic in canon, because one counterpart is in love with the other, but Ladybug and Chat Noir are partners, but Chat Noir is in love with Ladybug, but Marinette is in love with Adrien, so when Marinette is with Chat Noir, neither of them are in love with the other, but then again, like, neither of them I don't know, it's just hard to explain, but it gets me feeling a lot of things. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I was procrastinating on doing this illustration, and I was procrastinating for a reason, because it took me 6 hours, and I didn't even like render it super detailed. Like, this line art is like fast line art, and you'll see when I get to the shading that it's fairly simple shading, but like, this is 8 characters basically, so it was a lot of work, but I'm really happy. This is like, it makes me just really happy to see this illustration, to be honest, because it's everything I love about the Love Square. And of course it's a theme in My Fandoms Series to talk about the fanfiction side of fandoms and the miraculous side of fanfiction. There's more for Miraculous than I think any other fandom that I'm into, that I just read little sort of 600 word snippets or imagines on Tumblr, but there are quite a few full-fledged fanfics that I will leave linked in the description, so make sure you check down my description to see which fanfics I recommend for the series. And I feel like Miraculous, more so than other shows, you can get into the fanfiction without having seen the series, because the series is made for little kids, it's actually fairly formulaic, and I'm really not a fan of most formulaic shows, but Miraculous has such good characters that it kind of makes it alright. But yeah, because it's so formulaic, typically you have like the characters doing something, and then one of the villains comes in, and then they beat the bad guy, and then in between there's some sort of like character interaction, or across seasons you get to see character development, but not so much episode by episode. And I like that about the show, because it gives it such a good foundation to build the fandom content around. Like, it's super like a blank slate while having a really good premise for fanfiction to sit on top of, because it's a formulaic kids show. So we get to hyperanalyze and kind of project on and kind of put our own sort of character development onto the characters that aren't necessarily explored as much. So for example, Adrian, he works as a model for his dad's fashion company, but his dad doesn't really pay as much attention to it. And you have some fanfiction that makes his relationship with his dad a little bit more, normal-ish. Like, they respect each other, they just like don't necessarily show as much affection, while other fanfics give it a lot more kind of emotional weight, a lot more emotional trauma. They kind of exaggerate some of the abuse aspects of the neglectful parent, and others just kind of fix it for the creators. It's just a lot of flexibility with stuff like that the show itself doesn't necessarily explore with all the depth that it could, because it's a kids show, and I find that really interesting. And then also, of course, just the romance level of the Love Square. It's just one of my favorite things is just the different sorts of reveals, and then there's a lot of fics that feature like the different aspects of the Love Square just as the main pairing. So there's one that I'm going to be recommending, which is called The Ladybug and the Bees, which is the two kiddos aged up a couple of years, because in the show I think they're like 14. So here they're like 17 or something, 16, 17, something like that, and they're just learning about the birds and the bees in like practical sense, not textbook sense, for the first time. And the main pairing there, the one that's featured most prominently throughout the fic, is Lady Noir, so Ladybug and Chat Noir. So you have Marinette and Adrian in the day-to-day school lives, and then afterwards they're dating, but only as Chat Noir and Ladybug. They don't know who the other is in real life. And then you have other fics like Mary Chat. So Marinette and Chat Noir is a very popular pairing in the fanfiction world, because people see, like, I don't necessarily agree 100%, but it can be seen that like Chat Noir is the true presentation of Adrian's personality, because he tends to be a lot more reserved when he's quote unquote just Adrian, because of the pressure that his father puts on him. But as Chat Noir, he gets to be fully free. And then Marinette has a lot of expectations put upon her shoulders to be the perfect role model when she's Ladybug. So when she gets to just be Marinette, she feels a lot more herself. While I disagree, sort of, I feel like both the personas of the characters are their true selves to an extent. It is a very common trope to figure that Chat Noir is the true Adrian and Marinette is the true Marinette Ladybug, and so Mary Chat is a really popular pairing, especially because between Marinette and Chat Noir, in the canon, they don't have romantic feelings towards each other, because Chat Noir likes Ladybug and Marinette likes Adrian. So it's easier to write, or it's interesting to write kind of the feelings of affection developed through that, and it's also like a good an interesting internal conflict for there to develop this romantic bond in spite of romantic feelings already existing for somebody else. So Marinette's case, Adrian, and Chanoir's case, Ladybug. So it's just like something that's really interesting that can be explored through this fandom, and I'll be linking again a bunch of fanfics that explore this. I will tag the fanfics that feature romance as which pairing is the main pairing, whether it's like a reveal thing, and of course word count and maturity rating, I guess. But yeah, I really like this show. It's so cute, and it's got the potential for all this like emotional depth, and I don't know, and also like just the character designs and the aesthetic in general. It's kind of anime, but the show itself is rendered in CGI, and it's done by a Korean studio, so it's kind of anime while not being anime, but it's not really like Disney or Pixar. It's just a mix of, I'd say, Disney CGI and anime. And the original pilot for this, I think, was anime type looking thing, so I don't know. And the fact that it's also set in Paris, I feel like the only reason that my French is like as preserved as it is because I lived in France when I was a kid, but it was a long time ago and I haven't really used my French since, so I've forgotten most of it. So the only reason that over the last 4 years my French has maintained itself at some level of like usability is because I watch all these Miraculous episodes in French. And I know last month I did a video on dubbed versus subbed anime, but like I don't think that debate really even exists in the Miraculous fandom because everyone's just desperate to watch the episodes as soon as they come out. That it doesn't, like, I know a lot, like I see in the comment sections, there's so many people who don't understand the lick of French watching the French episodes because they just can't wait for them to come out like in Spanish or in English or whatever. So I think Ladybug is the single show, probably besides Dragon Ball Z, that I've seen in the most languages ever, which I absolutely love because it's like a super unique experience, I find, because I don't know, I haven't experienced ever a show that gets released in a way like this, because sometimes it comes out first in France, sometimes it comes first in Canada, sometimes it comes out first in Korea, sort of thing. So I don't know, I feel like Miraculous is a very unique phenomenon that I can't see happening with it. Like I haven't seen with any other show, whether it be Western, Eastern or something, I don't know. So we're wrapping up now, just doing some like color things in the background, and I thought I'd explain really quick before the video ends the colors. So pink is for Marinette because her favorite color is pink, her whole bedroom is pink. Red is for Ladybug because the suit is red, and red is like a more in-your-face version of pink. Then green is for Chanoir because his eyes are green, and then blue is for Adrian because of a blue scarf that Marinette gave Adrian for one episode. That's a whole thing, but that's why I did those colors. But this is the finished piece of all aspects of the love square for Miraculous Ladybug. Let me know what you think, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all next week.